Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our biomedical science industry webinar. My name is Harley Stevenson-Cocks. I'm a lecturer in biomedical sciences, and I'm also the academic lead for employability in biomedical sciences. So I'm kind of responsible for making sure you're as employable as possible by the time that you finish your degree with us. And I'm joined today by three of our graduates. So we have Ammad, Dania and Felix, who are previous students of biomedical and related subjects. And they're going to be telling us a little bit about their careers and their experiences shortly. So at first, I'm going to let each of them talk in turn very briefly about their time at Newcastle and what they're doing now. And then we're going to have around about half an hour or so for questions and answers. So if we're all ready to go, Ammad, I'd like to hand over to you to tell us about your time at Newcastle and what you're up to now.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Harley. And Harley, we're just saying it's a record year, 120 of you doing the Biomed Partner Scheme. That's great. So at the moment, I work in a commercial role doing business development in the pharmaceutical industry. I'll speak a little bit later on about what that is, but my journey began kind of 10 years ago, where you are now, so doing the biomedical strand of the partner scheme. I had a great time on partners, met some great people, and some people that I stayed in touch with my whole time at Newcastle Uni. So really strongly advise all of you to speak to as many people as you can, both on and off the biomedical strand. Then joined uni around the same time, 2012, 2013, and felt like I was surrounded by a lot of people on the course that maybe knew they wanted to do a medicine dentistry conversion or PhD, stay in academia after they graduated, or even join industry and become a lab scientist. But kind of felt like I was a little bit in the minority because not only was I quite unsure about what I wanted to do after graduation, I felt quite certain that it wasn't kind of bench science. So I wasn't really sure what kind of options were available to me. And in fairness, the medical school and the careers department are really good at guiding that. But by the time I graduated, I was still quite unsure about what I wanted to do next. A friend of mine that graduated in biology was working in a recruitment agency at the time in the city centre, and got me an interview. So I ended up working at that company for 6 months after graduation, doing kind of IT recruitment. I didn't know what recruitment was while I was at uni, but effectively I was working with companies, IT companies in this case, that were looking for candidates or kind of niche skill sets. So they're looking for developers, programmers, IT team leads, people that's not that easy to find. And my job as a recruitment consultant was to work with these companies to understand who they needed, and then to work with candidates that were looking for new jobs. So either looking at job boards, posting job ads, or also kind of approaching people on LinkedIn and kind of matching people with jobs, matching jobs with people. Learned some really good commercial kind of business experience, and that was what I was trying to develop. In hindsight, I probably didn't enjoy the job very much. They kind of fancied themselves as a little bit of a Wolf of Wall Street style organization. It was very loud, very high pressure, high sales targets, long hours, and yeah, in hindsight, probably not that enjoyable. But I learned some really, really useful skills that I used kind of immediately next. So after that, I went into a scientific recruitment agency. So doing something very similar, not the same kind of commercial skills, but here understanding the kind of business needs and the candidate requirements a little bit better, because it was skills that I was used to. I might have been, for example, looking for graduate biomedical scientists. I might have been looking for graduate chemists or experienced chromatography scientists. So here, still looking for these niche technical skill sets, still using that business and commercial acumen I was developing, but in a technical space, I understood a little bit better. And this was, I think, the first time I begun to understand what I wanted to do long term. So it wasn't necessarily recruitment, but it was a business focused role, selling services into senior stakeholders in businesses, while also keeping within a technical space. And I was really enjoying kind of getting out of the office, doing some of that in-person business to business interaction as well. So this was my first job that let me, kind of had business travel. It was all national, but trains, hotels, all paid for by the company, getting to see kind of London, Edinburgh, Glasgow, meet people face to face. And understanding what I wanted to do next kind of led me to the job I have now. So now this is kind of my first job within the pharmaceutical industry. I work for a contract testing lab in Manchester called Intertek. And what that means is we'll work with drug development companies that need testing of their drug molecule. For example, they might have an antibody therapeutic. They might need to determine the primary amino acid sequence or determine the 3D structure of the protein, determine how likely it is to aggregate, we'll do that analysis for them. And then they can use that data for example, a regulatory filing. They can send it to the FDA, help them in clinical trials, that kind of thing. My job within business development is to approach companies we don't already work with, either by doing company research on kind of using their websites, also using LinkedIn for these approaches, identifying key contacts, and then getting out to kind of international conferences, getting to visit clients in North America, across Europe. Again, kind of getting that face-to-face interaction, which I really enjoyed, and kind of using and building on those commercial skills, but again, within a more technical space than before. And just maybe to press the importance of LinkedIn there. So LinkedIn's been a massive help for me, both kind of professionally in my recruitment job and also now as part of my work, but also just as a great method of finding new work. So I'd really recommend all of you to get on LinkedIn, get signed up, and connect with as many people as you can. Connect with your peers, connect with your professors, with your seminar leaders, follow companies that come on site to talk to you about careers, or you hear that they're doing something innovative, just to kind of build out that network now. It'll pay dividends in the future, and you'll never fail to be surprised by how willing people are to help you if you just approach them in, with a well thought out and kind of well managed request. People will go a surprising way to help you out, and that's me included in that. It's been great to have a few LinkedIn requests from some of you already. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and get in touch after partners or during if I can help in any way. That's it for me.
Thanks, Ammad. And I definitely second how useful LinkedIn is. And I think maybe at this stage of your careers, you're not necessarily thinking about that kind of thing, but the earlier and quicker you get on board with it, the more useful you'll find it as you kind of go along and you build up this kind of potentially huge network of contacts for your career. Excellent. Can I move on to Dania, who I believe will be sharing some slides with us as well?
Yes, I will. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Dania, and I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a background on who I am, because it will provide context to how I got to where I am. So I'm originally Iraqi. I was raised in Malaysia, so I spent 20 years there. Started my university education in Malaysia, and then I moved to Qatar briefly because then I moved to the UK. And then it's been kind of back and forth from Qatar and the UK now. So currently right now I'm based in Doha, Qatar, if you will. Right. So this is my personal background, and this is the context in which it would matter. So in Malaysia, if you didn't know already, there's a Newcastle University branch, which they have the biomedical sciences degree, the MBBS degree, so the medicine degree, and they have a foundation science program. So those are the three programs that they run there. And that's where I signed up to do biomed. And that's from where I first heard, of Newcastle University. So I did the program is a 2+1 kind of program. So I did the first 2 years of the biomed degree in Malaysia. And then the final year, which is when you have your dissertation project in the UK. And that's where I moved to the UK for a bit. And then at that time, I was based in Doha. So yeah, so after finishing my biomed degree, I then went on to do a medical genetics degree. And since we're on the topic of university degrees, I wanted to let you all know that I chose to do biomed. There's always, I think, a misconception among, students that biomed is the degree you do if you didn't get into medicine or if you didn't get into what you really wanted to do. And this might be the case for some students, but it's not for, a lot of students. And it really isn't the degree, it really is what you do with the degree. And this goes for most degrees, as you can see with Ammad's story. We have the same degree, but we're doing completely different things with it. So a degree is like biomed can give you so many options as to how you choose to continue from there. As Ammad was saying, you could do a PhD and stay in academia, you can do industrial research, you can do scientific marketing, scientific communication. And this is the one thing that I personally really think biomedical science degree graduates, that's something they can leverage. And it is very much health sciences based. So you can get into medicine later when you have that really strong background to get into medicine if you want to. A lot of my peers who did medicine choose to intercalate and do a master's in biomed, or they choose to do a year of research, So that's something, they're very intertwined in that sense. And as Ammad was saying again, I didn't know what I wanted to do either. So you sign up for the degree and you have an idea. I knew I wanted to be in research, or so that's what I was thinking, that, if you do a degree in biomed, you do a master's, you do a PhD, you get into research. But I wasn't convinced, with doing research. I didn't think, I didn't want to be in the lab. I disliked being in the lab for long hours. And that's what I thought. You'd have to be in the lab for 8, 10, 11 hours. You have these experiments and these cells and these tissues that relied on you to come and, check on them and fix them and things. But that's not what, you end up doing if you don't want to do it. And if you want to do it, you can. And again, this is the beauty of biomed. You do what you want with it. So I did do the master's in medical genetics, because in my 3rd year of uni in the UK, I fell in love with genetics. And I'll tell you a little secret, as long as I don't tell my parents. Genetics, we did modules of genetics throughout the 3 years of biomed. It was my lowest scoring subject, even in my 3rd year when I fell in love with it. It was my lowest scoring subject. And I decided to do a master's in it. And even though it didn't reflect in the exams and the grades, I genuinely fell in love with it. And it was something that I knew I wanted to pursue. So we had an idea of which area to get into. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with a degree in genetics. So I did the MRes in Newcastle University. And after graduating last year, I got offered a position as a research specialist 3 here in Doha, and that's where I currently am. You're looking at a picture of Sidra Medicine, which is a hospital and research institute specializing in children and women disorders. And it's state-of-the-art and it's renowned within the region. So I work in the research department of Sidra Medicine, and my team, one of the main projects we're working on is to build a genomic reference for the Middle Eastern population. So we're trying to build a map of the Middle Eastern population's genes and mutations and what that looks like. A, because it's never been done before, and B, because doing that will help us, understand the different diseases and the different mutations within the population. So what I do specifically is I'm investigating genetic disorders in pediatric patients, so kids who suffer from neurodevelopmental disorders. So I have a research job, but I don't spend no time in the lab. I have an office job. I sit, in an office at a desk. I've got my laptop and a computer, and I analyze sequencing data. So the kids that come in, the sick kids, we sequence their DNA, and then any mutations that we find, I analyze the sequencing data, and I try to find mutations that might be causing their disorder. I then speak to, our clinicians, our physicians about these mutations, and if we think it's causing the disease, then they can inform the family and such. So although I am in a research position, it's not a wet lab based, kind of research, and I'm doing what I like. At the same time, it's very health sciences oriented. It's almost clinical in a sense. I don't see the patients and I'm not interacting with them directly, but I am behind the scenes trying to give them a genetic diagnosis, and essentially trying to figure out what's causing their disorder, and if their siblings could have it, if the parents decide to have more kids, what's the chances of their other kids having this disorder. And if I might be speaking to you now and you might look at me think, she just has it all figured out. And that's what I was thinking when Ammad was speaking. But I'd like to remind you, if you told me 5-6 years ago, this is what I'd be doing, I wouldn't have believed you, because I didn't know this in university. And so it's okay to not know what you want to do yet. It's okay to be unsure of it. It's okay to take your time and think. The time truly gives you that, ability to figure out things. You'll be trying things, you'll hear of things, different opportunities might pop up. And the maturity that you get as you grow day by day, year by year, you do start to realize what you like and what you don't like. And that can improve a lot of things. I'm telling you, I did so bad in genetics. Here I am, I'm working in genetics. So you need to be able to give yourself that compassion and that time to figure out what you truly want to do, and speak to the career service team as well, because they were so helpful when I just went up to Kate and I was like, Kate, I don't know what to do with my life. I know that I don't like this. I know I don't like that, but I'm not sure what exactly I want to do. So keep your, like as Ammad was saying, use LinkedIn to figure out what other people are doing, people that you're interested in, follow them, follow companies you're interested in, and try to, even through social media, you can try to find people who are working in positions that, you think you would like to be in. And then you just slowly get yourself there. Time really helps work it out, but you also need to put in the hard work, of course. Through uni, you have to do well. And so that was my time in university and how I got to where I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dania. And for anyone that doesn't know, I've just put it in the chat, but she mentioned Kate there, who's our careers consultant. So we have a dedicated careers consultant from the careers service for the school, and she's brilliant. She's a fountain of all career knowledge. She's so useful. So good little shout out there if you haven't come across her before, which I don't think any of you will have so far. Okay, Felix, are you good to go and tell us about what you're up to, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Harley. Hi, everyone. My name is Felix Bijoy. I am a pharmacology graduate from Newcastle University. And there, when I did pharmacology, I ranked first in my final year. I got various awards. But then now I am a second-year graduate engineer medic at the University of Warwick. And I'm also a YouTuber at Felix Bijoy. You can check that out. Lots of medical stuff, but also many things about my life. I also work in the marketing department at Medify, and I've done various courses and coaching. So recently I worked with, some of you might know, there's someone called Ali Abdal, who's a YouTuber. I worked as part of his part-time YouTuber Academy as well. Absolutely drop me a message on Instagram and LinkedIn. And as you heard from the amazing presentations from both of the presenters, there are many things that you can do after your biomedical degree, and one of them is graduate medicine. Now, just very quickly, I also want to mention that alongside all of this other stuff about degrees and achievements and all the things that I'm up to, you should also know my background. So I'm an immigrant, okay? I wasn't born here. I was born in India. I came here when I was very young. I come from a minority background, and I also came from a low income background. So both my parents were also immigrants, and coming to the UK was a completely new experience. Not many of us had already gone through the education system. So I was kind of the first one sort of exploring it. In my whole community, I was the first one to sort of reach that age of going through university first time round and things like that. So that's a little bit about my background. So let's get into the journey part. Now, your journey, if you're planning on doing graduate medicine, will be unique to you. But the question that I was wondering when I started undergrad was, is there anything I can do now? And absolutely, there are things you can do now, especially when it comes to understanding the application process. And it took me a while to figure these things out. And hopefully, I'm saving you a lot of time by giving you a little bit of a primer into what that journey looks like. Now, graduate medicine and medicine in entirety can sometimes seem complex, but really, when you boil it down, it's really two things, okay? There's an essential criteria that's going to get you the interview, okay? And then there is the desirable criteria that's going to get you the offer, okay? And this desirable stuff, okay, is going to also get you the opportunities to do work experience or to do whatever things you want to do with your career, whether that may be medicine or something else. So the essential thing that you absolutely must complete to go down this pathway is your academic requirements, okay? You don't need to get the absolute most amazing grades. All you need to do is meet the requirements of that university, whether that be UCAT or whether that be your degree classification, okay? You need that. That's like the entry pathway requirement. So you need that to get that interview. And then there are these soft skills, okay? Communication, observation, reflection, and empathy, which very, very conveniently fits into the acronym CORE, okay? So those are the two different things I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to show you how my journey, and through my journey, how I managed to accomplish these soft skills throughout Newcastle University's degree. So let's go back to 2017. I started with biomed, and pharmacology, if you don't know, is an offshoot. So in your second year, I believe you do different things. So you can continue biomed, you can choose genetics, you can choose pharmacology. So I chose pharmacology, and I did many things. Okay, so things like TEDx. So that's a society about public speaking. You may have heard of TED conferences. So I was president of that. I was vice president of this cultural society that I was part of. And I did a bit with Teddy Bear Hospital. And amongst that, I was also a street scientist and student ambassador. This point, or this segment, which was around second year, really honed in my communication. And it's so, so important, even when you think about interview. There's a great quote by Les Brown, who's a motivational speaker. He says that communication is the most important skill because the moment you open your mouth, you tell people who you are. So communication is extremely important, whether that be through LinkedIn, whether that be through presentations. And that's really what's going to get you the opportunities to get into work experience, and absolutely what's going to let you stand out in interview. Alongside that, observation, being able to reflect on experiences and improve yourself consistently. And of course, empathy is very important. So once I finished first year and I got sort of my academics under control, made sure that I can do well and know how to study. Second year was all about developing communication and some of that soft skills. And in third year is really when I thought about my clinical stuff. So I started to work in a care home, and I also started to work in a hospital. So as a work experience student, not as like a healthcare assistant. So in the care home, I was a bank carer for a while because that was one of the requirements for Warwick, and it was a very good experience. And then at the hospital, there's actually a scheme, I believe, I don't know if the careers team still run it, where you are able to go into the RVI and get some experience. And from there, I managed to find a consultant, persuaded him to take me on as a work experience student. So that's the main clinical experience that I spent. And lastly, I graduated, and now I'm doing graduate entry medicine. So hopefully that gives you a very, very quick whistle-stop tour of my journey and the things that I did, and how you can hit that essential criteria of being academically solid, but then also working on those core skills of communication, observation, reflection, and empathy. Now, why did I do it? Well, of course, there's many motivations to medicine, but what I would say are quite attractive reasons to do it is, of course, altruism. If you want to do medicine, it can be seen as a vocation where you get to help people. I know it's very cliche, but it's very true. You do get to make a huge difference into people's lives, regardless of what specialty you go to in different ways. It's a stable career. So medicine, of course, has like a 98, 99% employment rate. So if you know you like this career, you know you're definitely going to go down this pathway. So that was something that attracted me to it. And also versatility. Now, you might be able to tell that it didn't just say Felix Bijoy, medical student, or just a, doing a medical degree right now. And I don't think it ever will say Felix Bijoy, doctor, full stop. It will always be Felix Bijoy, doctor / creator / YouTuber / entrepreneur. I don't know which combination it will be, but medicine is very versatile. Okay, you can do many things. And the stuff that I do for marketing, the stuff that I do on YouTube, all these opportunities have been leveraged from doing medicine and having this whole medical student experience. You can do that with many degrees, but medicine has that really potent mix of versatility, stability, and altruism that I really, really like. So the resources that I used, again, Harley and everyone gave a huge shout out to the Career Society. So i.e. Kate, and of course the stuff that Harley's doing as well. Kate recently, I think she got a bursary for people that are wanting to do GAMSAT, which is a examination that you need to do for graduate entry medicine for certain universities. So they do amazing. It really wasn't that long ago I was sitting in a room with Kate practicing my interview stuff. So just use the career service. They are absolutely incredible. I can't say enough about them. They are presenting all of us to you right now as well. Medify. So at the top of that resources slide, I have said available does not mean affordable. I did not come from an extremely wealthy background. I could not afford all these expensive summer schools and all these courses. However, Medify is extremely unique in that it is very affordable. I can't remember the exact prices, but it's not super expensive. And in my personal experience, when I was applying, I actually got the bursary, which meant that I got access to their platform for free, absolutely free. I paid nothing because I got my lecturer to recommend me. They have a bursary scheme. The lecturer said, hey, here's Felix's situation. Would you be able to give him a bursary? And they gave me the whole access for free, which is why I love them. And it's one of the few things that I recommend because it is affordable and it sort of equalizes the access to medicine. And then I use the internet, random websites, lots of guides online, YouTube, lots of YouTubers. You can go to my channel or many other YouTubers that advise on how to get into medicine. And also there is this guy called Oliver Pickard. I'm not sure if you guys have seen his books, but he does these amazing interview books, amazing UCAT books. For the money that you spend, whether 20, 25 pounds, I bought mine used. It's quite funny because the interview book I have now was passed down to me from another graduate medic who went on to do graduate medicine, and I bought it from him secondhand. So you can buy these books secondhand. They're very good. That's what I recommend for interview. But one thing to say is that all of these things that you pay for, they might teach you how to be good at writing an exam, or how to be good at going to an interview. But what makes you truly great, truly stand out, is the research that you do to apply to a university, to know exactly what requirements are required, and then the practice and the reflection that you do, the things that I said would be great if you pick up during your undergraduate years. That's what makes you great. Okay, it's not like a magical website or a magical app or a magical software or company that's going to help you become really, really good. It's just practice and reflection and just honing your skills. When I was practicing for interviews, I literally had my laptop there. I would say my answer, look back at it, analyze my body language. I would go to Kate, I would go to many people, quiz me. So while all of these tools are helpful and the ones that I've mentioned are affordable, it's the practice and reflection that will make you amazing. And lastly, absolutely, the power of LinkedIn is everywhere. The power of internet is amazing. So if you want to message me, please drop me a message on Instagram or LinkedIn. You can go check out my YouTube channel. I'm absolutely up for chatting or offering advice or anything like that. So please do. And I think I've received a few messages already. So don't feel shy and fire away if you have any questions. Thank you so much for listening, and wish you all the best of luck with the upcoming degrees. Thanks.
Thanks, Felix. That's great. We'll try and work our way through the chat. I'll get back to the questions that have been asked a while ago now, and we'll try and cover as much as we can. But if not, I'm sure Dania, Ammad, and Felix are all happy to take any questions that you can send in LinkedIn or email or however you can get hold of them. So feel free to keep the questions coming in while I scroll back up and find the first one that came through, which is for Dania specifically. So your research being very specific and on interesting topics, what kind of autonomy do you have over what you study? Or are there any kind of limitations on what you can actually choose to do?
Yeah, so actually in your third year of biomed, so in the first and second year, you study specific things that set up the syllabus. And in your third year, you get to select, they give you 3 blocks of modules, and you get to choose a module from each block. And so I think there's about 5 or 6 modules in each block, and there's like quite a range of modules that you can choose from. So you definitely have autonomy, and the research project that you decide to do, you get to choose which, they give you a top list of top 5 or 6, or was it 10, different fields that you want to get into. So you do have the means to choose, the autonomy to choose. And in the master's as well, so I got to choose completely what kind of modules I wanted to do, and this includes things like business for the biosciences. There was an aging module. I think you could do like human anatomy and stuff like that. So yeah, as much as it was specific, you do have after third year, and if you do a master's, you have autonomy on what you study.
Thanks, Dania. Next question we've had is about working in hospitals and having patient interactions. What options do you have to get into positions that will allow you to do those things? Felix, you might be well qualified to talk about that. You did mention it briefly about the RBI visit.
Absolutely, yeah. So a couple of things, so a couple of protocols. Your first protocol is, I wouldn't really focus on it too much until end of second year. Actually, to be honest, then you're doing applications. So probably third year is probably best. But second year, third year. So maybe first year, you don't have to focus on it too much. But in terms of actually getting experience, so I can't remember exactly when it is. I think it might be third year, or it could be second year. But Career Service did do this experience day at the RVI. I don't know if that program still runs. It is competitive, and you do need to apply and do an application for it. And I think it's actually the medical school who organizes it, and they let you have like a day at there. Now, if that doesn't work out for you, fine. What I would say in terms of getting pure hospital experience, aside from care home, which is just applying, I would say what I did was I kind of got a bit lucky, because in second year, I did a research placement, and that research placement had a clinical supervisor. So there was a consultant orthopedic surgeon, and I kind of talked to the orthopedic surgeon. I was like, please, I'm doing the research on this drug that's supposed to treat these knee surgery pain stuff. Can I also jump in the clinics where you are looking after these patients clinically? Would that be okay? So the lesson to learn from that is, if you do want hospital experience, hospital admin, especially NHS, unless you're going through the specific program like the one I said, can sometimes be a bit difficult to get through. You might be one email out of 1,000 and they might never look at it. So what I would say is reverse engineer the process. And what I mean by that is find a consultant or an actual person, okay, who does clinics. Usually consultants are very good. Look at their track record of teaching, okay? If they like teaching and like having students, they usually have a track record of having students or work experience of doing programs, and then email them directly and say, hey, can I come in and shadow you? This is what I am. Again, this is where communication matters, whether it's on LinkedIn, many consultants are on LinkedIn, whatever it is, email them directly. And what they will do is they will actually just call the admin team or email the admin team and say, hey, this is the student, can they come in? And that will take like way less time than you going the other way around. So reverse engineer the process to maximize your success. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thanks, Felix. And yeah, in Newcastle, you're blessed with the RVI, which is the main hospital. There's the Freeman Hospital, which is 10 minutes away. There's a big hospital in Gateshead, which is maybe 15 minutes away. So there's loads of opportunities, and obviously all the kind of smaller care units as well. I'm going to take a question. I've seen a few come up about placement years and summer placements. None of these are necessary or compulsory. And I've seen one question who's asked, they were told that you needed to get a year in a lab to get a job after graduation. That is a giant myth. Having a placement year or some experience may help you get a job after graduation, but you absolutely do not need to have that under your belt in order to secure a job. The key thing is that you've done a really great degree where you've learned loads of useful skills. Any employer, as we've kind of heard from, the kind of range of experiences that Ammad, Dania and Felix have now got, you know, you get set up for life with a biomedical science and related degree. So you're already in a strong position. Those kind of placements and extra bits are all just icing on the cake to some extent. Felix, another question for you, if you don't mind. This might address some of the students that are thinking about medicine. Is how are you finding it as a graduate medicine entrant compared to those that went into undergraduate medicine? Do you think there's a big difference?
I think so. In terms of how I'm finding it and if there's a big difference, so a few things to know. For me, not too bad, because Warwick and I believe Swansea are only GEM courses. So everyone on the course is a graduate entry medic. Warwick has the largest course cohort as well. I think it's like around 200 people. So it's not a huge difference, but then I would say, you know, we have people on the course who have done PhDs, who are physician associates, who are nurses, who have done various different courses. I have a friend who did a finance degree as a mechanical engineer. It's a huge melting pot. And I would say if you embrace it, you actually see the utility of having such wide experiences. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I find it amazing. I think to address the whole fact of what if you're a graduate and you go into an undergraduate degree, it's going to be slightly different. So Newcastle, I think, has around, let's say, 24 to 37 places. It varies up year upon year. And if you're a graduate and you're going into undergrad, your mindset will be different. You have 3 years of experience under your belt. Your ability to study and to use opportunities and to leverage things is completely different. You know more about yourself as well. You know, you're not 18, you're 21 now, and you've got that experience. And that's why I think graduates can actually cope with the intensity of the course. So in graduate entry medicine, it's 4 years, not 5 years. So the year 1 and 2 is squished together, and it's a long year, and it's a very difficult year. So I would say it's great. I think, well, I don't want to say better, but for me, I enjoy it. I think it's a really good opportunity. And whatever you do, usually you will have other graduates with you and you will bond with them. And, you know, even if it's an undergraduate course, you should be fine. So yeah, it's not too bad. Just the intensity of the first year, I think you'll be ready for, because you've done 3 years.
Thanks, Felix. And to be honest, I would say that kind of applies not just to graduate medicine, but in general, that, you know, there's no rush to have your career mapped out by the time that you're 21. I don't think there's a way that you can necessarily even know what you want to do by then. So taking those steps a little bit later on in life, and 21 is still young, 25 is still young. I'm going to say 30 is still young, because that's how old I am. And it's, you know, there's that conception that you have to have your life set on track by the time that you're 18 years old, I think is very unrealistic. So having built up some of those life experiences, like having a degree in pharmacology under your belt, means that when you do then take the next step, you know, you're much more rounded. You know for sure that it's what you want to do as well. I think that's definitely really useful. Ammad, if I might ask you a question, because we've focused a little bit on the medicine and on the lab side of things. In your kind of role as in a business side of things, could you tell everyone on the call a little bit the kind of skills that you've used from your biomed degree that you've found really useful in the role that you're in now, or the roles that you've had up to date?
Yeah, of course. So I mentioned initially I kind of moved away from science and went into kind of IT recruitment and sort of shunned science for a little bit then, and came back to it within a year. And of course, now when I'm talking about kind of protein characterization, a lot of the biochemistry that I learned at uni is really, really applicable to the work I do now. But even aside from some of the technical skills, there's a big focus, I think, in the 3-year course at Newcastle, focusing kind of on presenting data and putting a presentation together, presenting it to your seminar groups. And I think a lot of this is designed to prepare you for some of the master's and PhD research, for example, kind of presenting your master's viva studies type of thing. But actually that type of communication that Felix has already spoken about is absolutely crucial. And you will get a good opportunity to practice that during your time at Biomed. But it also just goes on to be more and more useful as you progress into kind of professional careers. So not only is the technical aspect of university study important in what I do now, the specifics of kind of biochemistry and the analytical techniques that you perform in the practicals, but also the communication that you continue to work on, that's invaluable.
Like I said, definitely. I think it's again, there's a preconception, I think, that you do a biomed degree and you go and end up working in a lab and that's all your options are. But the reality is everything you learn in a science degree sets you up to work in any kind of sector, really, doesn't it? You know, the skills that you gain, the transferable skills, like communicating, working in a team, working on your own, being critical and analyzing thing, I think is what really sets biomed degrees out, is that you can apply those to any setting and any kind of job, really. I see a question in here about societies, and this is one that maybe you can all chime in for. So are there any particular societies that you would recommend to join that are related to biomed, or any ways that students can get a little bit of extra experience?
I feel like I was there quite a while ago, so perhaps the other attendees would be better to mention this than myself. I don't think I did too much in the way of kind of involved specifically related to biomed, but there were a lot of kind of physical activity related stuff that the uni is great for. So kind of a couple of martial arts related ones I was involved with. There's also one called the 20-Minute Society. I don't know if that still exists, but they drop you a text and you have to kind of, it's like meet me in the city centre in 20 minutes and it bring a £5 and and some ID, and when you arrive you find out what you'll be doing. That's quite a good one. So there's a real variety of stuff you can get involved with, both kind of sports related, academic, and also incredibly random and fun.
Again, not a scientific one, but I did do NEST, and I would highly recommend doing NEST. So NEST stands for Northeast Solidarity and Teaching. It is a student-led volunteering project. It's not really a society, it's some volunteering you can do, where you get to teach English to refugees and asylum seekers who want to learn English. It's a great opportunity to, you know, hone your communication skills. Basically, that's some teaching experience that you get, and a great way to interact with people as well. So I would highly recommend volunteering with NEST. They always need student volunteers, and again, a great way to gain some skills on the way. But that's one thing that I did during uni.
Yeah, I mean, I did quite a few. I would say genuinely, I'm not trying to like bias or just say this for the sake of saying it, but probably the most underrated skill, especially at undergraduate level, is communication, and specifically communicating to the public in a public forum and presenting. Okay, public speaking. There are so many people that are just really afraid, at least from my cohort. When we started, like, people just didn't want to present. They didn't want to talk. They didn't want to talk in front of people. Sure, by themselves, okay. But public speaking, if you can master that early on, oh my God, like, I just think that's such an underrated skill. It's going to help you in every single avenue. And by the nature of doing public speaking, you'll automatically get good at communication. So if focus on one skill, communication. So to do that, I'd say join TEDx Society. It's great. There's like competitions. You get to go to a conference every year with like lots of other stuff. It's not just science. So I'd say that's the one soft skill to focus on. I don't want to like bombard you with loads of stuff, but if one society, I'd say join TEDx. And yeah, otherwise just have fun. 20 minutes, great as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it will build your confidence no end if you partake in those sorts of things, like speaking publicly, something that probably 99% of students absolutely fear. And the first time that you have to do a presentation at university, I'm sure it fills everyone with dread. But I suppose the thing to think about is, you know, you have to do that at some point in your life. Once you start getting used to it, it becomes so much more easier. And I think you feel much better about yourself when you can actually deliver presentations or just talk to people more confidently. It just makes life a little bit easier, probably. And about societies, you know, I would say there's probably a society for anything you can think of these days at university. They're all very friendly, very welcoming. In a lot of cases, you can taste them, have a trial for free, pretty much, in the first semester of first year. So if you've never even heard of it, have a go, see what it's like. It's one of the best ways to find out what's for you, and even just to make friends or make connections. Definitely recommend getting involved in societies. Dania, how do you think traveling around has kind of maybe developed or impacted on your kind of professional life, Dania?
I moved to the UK during my third year of the degree. And so the biomed degree, if you might already know this, guys, the first year doesn't count to your final grade. The second year is a third, and the final year is 2/3. I moved to a totally different country that I've moved through the most important year of my university life, which was insane. But this is something that I did. So the program works that way, and it really builds your resilience. You have to adapt. I had support because my sister, she's younger than me, but we did uni together, so we moved together. The first 24 hours in Newcastle, we were like, done. We're going home. We don't need this degree right now. This is not, I'd never been to the UK. But then, you meet the people in Newcastle and they're so lovely. And you find out that it's really a student-centered kind of city. And it builds it builds you up, your resilience. So the teaching styles in the two different campuses are completely different. In Newcastle in the UK, you basically taught each lecture by a different, lecturer. They're so specific. If you have a lecture on cancer research, they will bring in a cancer researcher to give you that module. If you have a module on genetics, they'll bring in a genetic researcher to speak to you on that. So we had to adapt to the teaching styles, the different assessment styles as well. So it definitely builds your resilience, your confidence, and that opens. I think traveling is important in general, just to give you that awareness of different cultures and how different parts of the world work, and it just gives you a sense of appreciation of where you are. So it also will confuse you. So I don't know what's home to me. Is it Malaysia? Is it Doha? Is it the UK? But I think it just enriches you. And I'm sure, Ammad and Felix will agree, if you've traveled anywhere, like it just really enriches you, the experience of traveling, even if it's for leisure, even if it's just for vacation. Getting to know a different culture and different part of the world is just so fulfilling. So would recommend it, as long as manage your studies well, because you don't want to risk that.
Thanks, Dania. Yeah, good points. And yeah, it's all kind of managing your study, I suppose, is the most important thing. But anything extra you can do on top of that, and you've got room in your life, socially, professionally, or whatever, to do it, then you'll find it's definitely beneficial. And you don't know until you try it. So a year is realistically a very short time as well. So if you just want to travel abroad for a year, then why not? If you can do it. It doesn't count towards your final degree classification, a study abroad year. So, it'll be good. We have a raised hand. Yildiz, are you going to ask us a question?
So it depends, I guess, kind of where you see yourself in medicine as well. You can decide. So there's a health and aging module. There was a cancer module, so if that's something you want to specialize in. There's the genetics one, of course. There was a science communication, a bioinformatics, a business for biosciences, and there was a research skills for the biomedicine field or something like that. So I think that would be a good one to go into if you're looking for something that's more clinical, but also you're interested in research. I don't know if Felix, if you have suggestions, because although you kind of did it separately.
I would say if you're like hell-bent on doing biomedicine or genetics, I think most of them have healthcare modules. I remember I did pharmacology because I was like, my end goal is medicine, then I know I'm going to do a lot of physiology and a good amount of biomed in medicine. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll deviate to doing drugs specifically. And even in pharmacology, you had like cardiovascular pharmacology, toxicity, all of the courses, all of the strands pretty much have an element of medical stuff, which can be used later on. And I don't think any medical courses, as far as to my knowledge, discriminates depending on what course you graduate with. So if you graduate with pharmacology or biomedicine, it's fine. So just go with what interests you, you know. So yeah, hopefully that helps. In terms of the university, I would say is that there's a lot of bursary. So the first thing you probably want to think about, or at least I thought about, is financial support. It's very difficult, especially if you're on your own and you're trying to work part-time. Lots of bursaries available. You need to be in the know-how of which bursaries you are allowed and how to apply for them. Because I think there's a huge student support team as well. So Newcastle's really, really good at valuing students and supporting them. So bursaries for finances. In terms of other jobs, part-time, so uni term, student ambassador, street science, you know, I had to do that to support my finances. So financially, lots of stuff there. In terms of academically and medicine wise, obviously you have the tons of societies that they do. Because Newcastle also has a medical course, I mentioned that medical medical experience day that you can apply for. Alongside that, you also get things like MMI practice, interview practice, application guidance, CV guidance, all part and parcel with the career service. So financial stuff, just look for jobs and bursaries. Academic and support stuff, go to the career service and they will guide you. And if none of that works, just go to there will be someone who will be signposted. I'm sure Harley will know, that will know all the links, and they will just signpost you wherever you need, because, you know, things will have changed by now. But I hope that helps, and congratulations again.
Yeah, I think Kate, our careers consultant, is a fountain of knowledge for finances, especially. And Felix did actually touch on it earlier in his talk, but she's actually set up a specific bursary to help with applications for medicine in terms of sitting the GAMSAT. So yeah, the career service will be all over that sort of thing. Right, everybody, we're unfortunately short on time, and I'm just going to ask one more question to each of our speakers. So, and if we could go Ammad, Dania, and then finish with Felix. So considering your time at university and your own career, what would be the one bit of advice you would like to share with our partner students? And that can be academic, personal, professional, or anything.
Right, well, I feel like I should probably say something a bit more fun. You know, have a great first year or something like that. But maybe given the platform, I'll give a more careers-based answer. I'll plug LinkedIn again. It's something I used a lot kind of post-graduation and really didn't utilize enough during my time at university. Build that network as soon as you can. Like I said, connect with your peers on the course. You know, the people I was at uni with are now team leaders and kind of leading teams in both academia and industry, and their connections now that will be useful professionally, you know, maybe for the next 10 or 20 years. So build out that network as soon as you can. So yeah, my plug will be LinkedIn, but also, you know, have a good first year.
Yeah, I'll take over from there. So I think it's really important to be kind to yourself. So you might not always get things the first time around. I don't need to tell you again about my story with genetics, but you need to be compassionate and kind to yourself and give yourself the space to, you know, learn and grow and improve. You know, we all make mistakes. You will make mistakes, and we continue to do so. But that's how we learn, and that's the beauty of life. There are ups and downs, and then you appreciate the time in between. And work hard. Like Felix was saying, there isn't a magic, you know, recipe to getting to where you want to be or where you think a successful future looks like. You know, putting in the work, everything will be counted, regardless if you see the return straight away or not. Everything will be counted. And again, yeah, enjoy your time in university. Honestly, it's cliche to say, but it really is the best time of your life. I wish I could go back. Might have to do another master's just to go back.
Great. And from my side, I'm going to try and be as practical as possible here. University is hard, and it's how you use it. You can just go through, do your degree, finish, or you can do many, many things and make full use of the things. I can't remember, some lecturer at the beginning of the university degree said, it might have been Dr. Vevid actually, she said something like, you know, university is like a gym. Okay, we give you the tools, but you kind of have to go in every day and work out and like do the transformation. Some people, they started the year, get the membership, and then kind of like fall off the track. Other people continue to stay consistent. So what I would say is, as a student, optimize your decision making, become better at making better decisions. And by that, I mean, do your research now. And part of that is going to these talks and, going on YouTube and learning about it, but just do your research now, try and plan out something. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just know, okay, I want to go into medical school here. These are the requirements. Here's how I'm going to get there. And if you can do that and make good decisions by planning early on, I think you will, thank yourself later on. And yeah, just work hard and have fun. And very well done to all of you for getting this far. I hope you enjoyed first year.
Thanks, everyone. That's all really great advice. And yeah, I don't think it can be underestimated that having fun and enjoying yourself is equally as important as working hard and making sure that you kind of take all the opportunities, because that's one of the best ways that you can grow as a person, especially. University isn't just about the academic things, as much as we often tell you that it is. It's just as important that you get out of university what you want for the future as well. Right, well, that's all we've got time for. But if I just say a big thank you at last to round up to our three speakers, Ammad, Dania and Felix. Thank you very much. And thanks everybody for attending and keeping us very, very busy with all of these questions.